Okay guys, I'm back on the 55 here. I'm going to show you a little video about how I do this when I put panels on. The first panel I got to put on here is the dog leg, so I can get this rocker panel solid, get it back together. Now this piece of dog leg piece is for a 57, and it does have some differences, and I'll show you those. I'll go through and show you those to make it work. If you're going to do this kind of work, let me give you a piece of advice here. Let me show you this. This is a little dolly and hammer kit body and fender set. You can get them at Harbor Freight. They work really well. They got different hammers and different dollies you can use on the back side of the panel to hammer against to get stuff flat and square and all that. So I use a couple of those. Let me get down underneath here first. I want to show you what I had to do underneath to make it work. And we'll start down there. All right. So underneath here, so this is the rocker panel off the 55, and it went quite a bit further back than the 57 one did. So what I did is I cut a slot with a grinder back to about a ½ inch from the corner here, and I just bent this down and attached it with screws there. And I'll make a filler piece to put in here to weld in here later on. When I'm working on the inner rocker panels, I'll make a piece to put in there and weld all that in when I got it up in the air. But that's what you got to do on the bottom to make it work. You're going to cut you a little triangular piece to fit in there. That's no big deal. You can weld that in. And then up here where I did the fender, you guys saw that I cut this notch out of the fender. And as you can see, I've tapped it down using my hammers, and it's pretty flush now. Now I'm just going to I'll weld this up, and it should give me a nice body line. I got to bend this lip here back because it goes back onto this lip, but I'm going to weld all this first, and that way it's solid before I try to bend that, and then I can bend that later to fit the factory panel. Another thing I had to do, I had a real problem with this line right here all the way down to here. I had a hard time getting the factory door to close. As you can see, it looks pretty good now. But what I had to do with it, let me show you what I had to do here. Get the door open back up. So I took this hammer, which has a nice square edge on it, and I worked on it in here and then along there, and got it pushed in a little bit, because when I first started, the door was hitting right in this area here where this dog leg is, right in there. The door was hitting, so I needed to push this in a little bit. I didn't hit this edge. Don't hit this edge. That's a body edge. You don't want to hit that. So I was tapping inside here where the 90-degree bend is all the way up to here. I just kept tapping with this hammer and getting it to bend in just a little bit. You don't have to hit it hard. I mean, you want to hit gently and just move the metal a little at a time. And then in this corner here, to get this shaped, I just used the hammer with just a tip on it and just kept tapping and straightening it out. And then I had this chisel that I've dulled the end of it on, if you can see that. I've dulled the end of it. It's not sharp, it's dull. And I took it and I laid it up in here. And then I took a ball peen hammer and just kept hitting on this all the way down to there, just to get this edge to go in a little bit. And then I also used the ball peen hammer. I used the ball peen, and especially like in this corner here, I tapped in that corner to get that rounded out, and just tapped along all the way along the edge like that, and just tapped it just to kind of give it a rounded, smooth out the indentations I made. I mean, it isn't perfect. It's going to need a little skim coat of filler whenever somebody paints it, but it looks pretty good now the way it is. I think it'll be fine. And then this panel here didn't want to fit very well. I had to get what is this, a 6-inch, 4-inch C-clamp, and put it around like that, and I drew the panel in on the bottom first, and well, I drew it in right here in the middle, and it was pulled in all the way on the bottom, and I put a couple screws in it. By the way, you can see I'm using self-tapping sheet metal screws. That's how I get my panels in place, get them kind of set where I want them to be, is that. And so I put a couple screws in here, and then I moved the C-clamp up to this edge up here and pulled it back right there like that. and I was able to get a screw in the top right here in this corner, and then I took the C-clamp off and put a couple more screws there, and then I just kept working it. I had to put the C-clamp here and pull this corner in because it didn't want to go either. You know, these panels are made to fit over the top of the rocker panel, so you got to do massaging. I mean, this isn't going to fit perfectly. It's going to take some work. I've been working this thing probably for about 2 hours or so, just getting this much done to it, getting it to fit the way it should. So, you know, it takes a little bit of work. All right, we're going to stand up here, and we can look at the top. Again, in this corner here, I took my chisel and hammer, my dulled chisel, and because this was not fitting flush, so I took my dulled chisel and I kept tapping on this to get that to go back, and I actually tapped on it hard enough. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I actually split the metal. Yeah, you can see it. See that split in the middle? So I split it, but it's sitting flush now, and I'll just weld that up. It's no big deal. Weld it up, grind it down, it'll be fine. Over here on the edge where the fender grabs, I had to put a C-clamp. I put one probably about right in here, and I put it on the back side here. Let me grab the C-clamp and show you how I did it. So I put the C-clamp with the threaded end on the inside the fender like that. See that? Put it inside the fender. My hand's over the camera. There we go. So I put it inside the fender and then screwed it down from the inside and pulled that in. Put a few screws in the bottom, and then I moved the C-clamp up here and did the same thing, pulled it in, put a few more screws in it. And you know, you can see like this edge here, it isn't quite flat, but what I'll do is once I get some of these places welded down lower, I will take a hammer and I'll tap that down flat before I weld it in. So I put a lot of sheet metal screws in it like this, and what I do is when I'm getting ready to weld it, I'll pull, you know, like every other one out, and I'll weld the hole shut behind it, and it welds through to the back side of the panel. And then when I'm done going all around the whole panel, then I'll take all the other screws out and weld them too. And along this top here, I'll probably weld this solid, and down through here I'll weld that solid on the outside so it can be ground down and smoothed out and look nice. I mean, you don't have to. You could just put body putty in there if you wanted to. I don't know for sure what I'm going to do. I may just leave it alone. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But it definitely looks pretty good. Looks way better than the old panel with the big giant hole in it. So that's kind of a overview shot of it right there. But I like the way it looks. So again, this is part of the dog leg video, so I'll put that on there so you guys can see how to do that. But that's how you repair the dog leg on the car. And you're probably gonna have to tweak the door a little bit. You know, it's not gonna shut perfectly. At first it wouldn't shut hardly at all, and I just kept working on these a little at a time, just tapping them in a little bit at a time until I could get it to shut. And now, as you can see, it shuts pretty decent. Looks pretty good there from the outside. So I think that's gonna be just fine. Again, if someone, you know, whoever buys a car from me, if they want to take it to the body shop and have it painted, if they don't like the patina look, they can take it and have it painted. They can, you know, have the door adjusted and have all this stuff, you know, made to look pretty. But I'm just trying to get the rust fixed. So I'm gonna start welding this up, and we'll take a look at it when I'm done, see what the finished product looks like. So let's keep going, and we'll look at that. In the trunk back here, I went ahead and put that Rust-Oleum rust reformer. I painted it on there with a paintbrush, just the whole floor of the trunk. You know, and you guys are probably thinking, well, how are you going to weld through that? Well, what I'll do is wherever I weld, I'll just drill a hole through the top layer of steel, and when the drill hits the bottom layer, it'll scrape the paint off, and then I'll just stick my welder in there and weld it in, and it'll be fine. Or I'll screw it. Actually, what I'll do is I'll screw it down, just like I did up there. I'll screw it down with self-tapping sheet metal screws. I mean, you can do that. You can drill a hole and do it that way too, but I'll just use the self-tapping sheet metal screws, and I'll put a whole bunch of them in there, you know, like right next to each other, and then I'll just pull one out and weld it, and then I'll go to the next one, or skip one and go to the next one and pull it out and weld that one, and then just keep going all the way across. And then when I'm done, I'll go back and I'll pull all the others out that I haven't pulled out and weld across there. So that's how I'm going to do that. On the bottom down here, I may have to just clamp it together and drill holes in it. Like I said, I may just do that around that lip there. I don't know. But I'm not working on this right now. I'm just working on the dog leg. But I wanted to show you what I've done to the trunk just to make sure the rust is gone. So I've pretty much covered all the rusty areas with this sealer. And I got some bed liner. I'll probably put bed liner in this trunk and just make it look nice when I'm done. But that'll be after I'm done welding everything together. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm gonna start welding on that dog leg, and then we'll see how it looks when I'm done.